context of Minsk II agreements, we are here tonight together to discuss the Ukrainian-Russian conflict in the eastern regions of Ukraine. We have with us tonight experts, political experts, but also we have locals from the region who are directly affected by the conflict. But let's just first see what the politicians say and what the politicians do to resolve this crisis. With us here tonight is Mr. Holzmeier, the German foreign minister. Good evening, Mr. Holzmeier.
Good evening, Frau Hodnicka.
So what is your opinion on the Minsk II agreements and how do you see the possible resolution of this conflict?
Let me tell you first. Behind me, a whole night of tough negotiations, almost 20 hours, and it took so long because Mr. Putin had to go to the toilet so often. But I tell it only to you. Participants almost had left before the end of the negotiations, but in the end we agreed on something. What are the positive aspects? Though I am not euphoric, what we have is not bad. All in all, we have a ceasefire. This is what we agreed on. We agreed on the removal of heavy weapons from both sides from the conflict zone. And finally, there will be a buffer zone installed. It has to be monitored by the international community, by the OSZE. On the other hand, I am not fully satisfied with what we agreed on with regard to the border security between Russia and Ukraine. But one more positive thing, let me tell you that in the end, as we say in my country, everyone is in the boat. The presidents from Russia, Putin, and the other one, the Ukrainian, and the terrorists, and from the Luhansk and the other one republics. So the question will be, do they all respect the agreement? It remains to be seen, I would say. It is important that international control is there from Germany, from France, from all our partners in the European Union, but also from our international partners in America and in Russia. And let me say one thing in the end, what for me is most important. I think that the Russians must make sure that they put pressure on the separatists to stick with this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holzmeier, for the latest news from Berlin. And now we go and look at the conflict zone. And we now have tonight with us Mr. Alexander Yakovenko from Ukraine and Mr. Vladimir Kuznetsov from Crimea. Mr. Yakovenko, what do you feel? How do you feel? And what do you think is the solution to this conflict?
Well, we don't know what's happening. Leaders are talking and talking all the time, and there is no real result. The situation is really bad here. We don't have security. We don't have public health. All the public services are down. We don't feel secure in this kind of situation, and we feel so bad when we are attacked by these brainwashed Russians that live still in this imagined world where people are waging war against each other. And we still don't see a good solution for the situation, but we hope that in the end it's going to be improved in a way, because we don't want to live in this kind of situation, and we want a better future for our children.
Thank you, Mr. Yakovenko. That was for Ukraine. And now over to the Russian part of the conflict zone. Mr. Kuznetsov.
I personally believe, as an ethnic Russian and as a brainwashed Russian, that the whole process that we witnessed was incited by Western and in particular American provocations. America wants to push back Russia as far as it can, namely by positioning military on its western borders and in specific post-Soviet states like Moldova and Ukraine. It's trying to implement its fake democracy and fake values. I think that this is just a race for dominance of America over Russia, and we will not give in to the pressure that Western leaders pro-European officials and manipulated media like yours are inflicting on us. We are proud to be part of the Russian Federation and would do anything to for our fierce leader, Vladimir Putin. You will see that this is just a start. Donetsk and Lugansk are next. Further down the road, I am convinced that our Baltic brothers would join us by turning down all vicious Western values. This is why our leader's rating is so high. He is bringing back the glory of the former Soviet Union. And I have one message for you. Westerners, beware.
Thank you, Mr. Kuznetsov, for your very enriching speech. Now the manipulated media is going to ask Marie Mandras from Sciences Po Paris, the expert on the EU relations with Eastern Europe and Russia. Mrs. Mandras, what do you think about this conflict and what are the possible solutions?
Good evening. In this moment, it's very complicated to come up with solutions concerning the resolution of the Ukrainian conflict. It depends on how far the Russia wants to go in supporting the separatists. It depends on how much the Kremlin will do. It's hard to predict. We know that it will continue to destabilize Ukraine, that it will continue to occupy the eastern Donbass, that we know for sure. Whether they will keep the conflict at low intensity level, whether they will go again for high intensity conflict in the east of Ukraine, it is difficult to say. I think they will do a little bit of both. We have no solution to change the dangerous situation of the population that inhabits in eastern Ukraine, because in the report of the forces, the Russian military is still stronger for the moment, at least. What the European governments and Western governments can do is certainly play the long term, to work on longer term developments, to understand that Moscow will not be able to provide security and prosperity and grouped services to around 4 million. The Minsk II agreement is highly political, full of contradictions, and for people like us who study the issue, it's very important to be practical and to see what it means not only for the military, but also what it means for the civilian population, because they are the ultimate target. I don't think that anybody from Paris, Berlin, Kiev, or Brussels has the answer to how to deal with this dilemma. Thank you.
Thank you to our invitees. It seems like Berlin, Paris, nor London has a definite answer to this conflict. We'll but see what the possible solutions are with maybe the next negotiation, maybe in Minsk, maybe somewhere else. Thank you very much.